guys, this is EuroBONUS podcast and your host, Donatas URBONUS. Today I'm here with my colleagues, Augustas Šuliauskas and Gytis Blaževičius, and we have a lot of things that happened in the last EuroLeague week. Is this what you wanted to say? Something like that?
Something like that. Olympiacos to win the EuroLeague title. Biggest star returns to Europe.
Oh.
Top 3 playoff race teams to watch. Top extension candidates in the EuroLeague. And of course, bright basketball mind Gilbert Arenas speaking facts about Europeans in the NBA. He's just cooking, yeah. So a lot of interesting topics to cover. Anyways, Andrea Trinchieri told that my respect for Olympiacos is huge. It means that they are really good. If you ask me to give a team that will win it, the EuroLeague, I believe in karma. What happened last year was very painful for them, but they are the names I am going to put for the trophy at this moment. Reactions, please. What do you think about this statement?
I think that he had to choose something outside of Real Madrid, and he chose
First of all, he didn't need to choose anything. You know, he came up with this, there were no questions, nothing. He was just talking about, in pre-game, Žalgiris Olympiacos.
Look, before the game, you usually try to praise your opponent and see what happens. Maybe they maybe they feel really good about themselves. Maybe this happened. There is a really slight chance of this happening, and it did not happen as we saw on Friday. But there is no surprise to me that Trinchieri chose Olympiacos. I mean, they were in the final last year. They are pretty good this year in a very competitive EuroLeague. They are just 2 or 3 wins away from the second place. And knowing all the injuries they had, knowing so many new players coming in, I think they're in a good position. These last 7 games will be really important. But looking at the advanced stats, they have been the best team. If we are taking into consideration only the games since the new year, since round 18, when the team started playing the second game with everyone. So in this 10-game period, they have the number 3 offense, number 6 defense, and the number 1 net rating in total. So I think they're gearing up at the right time. Everybody knows how they're going to play, but it still works. I think the addition of Moses Wright is actually really interesting and might give them defensive versatility in the playoffs. But the only question to me remains the same. Thomas Walkup had a fantastic game. Shaq McKissick had a fantastic game. But the defense that Žalgiris showed on Friday, you are not going to see in the playoffs or even against the really good teams. Like Žalgiris was pretty poor in that department on Friday. And teams are going to risk, because they have such a great offensive style. Teams have to risk something, and it's going to be Thomas Walkup freeze. It's going to be Papa Nikolaou freeze. It's going to be McKissick freeze in the playoffs. And can they be efficient in the last 5 minutes of the games? That's my question for them. That has been there since the start of last season and even before. And it really hasn't changed. And we saw last year that they had to go 5 games, even though they were the number 1 seed in the, to start the playoffs. So I love how their playing style, but still that question remains to me to this day.
Yeah, I watched your breakdown that you released on Saturday, and like some of the comments were saying, it's kind of dizzy sometimes to watch these off-ball movements, because it's just always going on. And I feel like you said the right thing here. Now in the regular season, to have this like default, the base of this Barcoka system that's always off-ball movement, offense, like all the things you talked about, back screens, cuts, and stuff like that, is great. But then, like you said, when it comes to playoffs, I feel like it'll become difficult when a team can prepare for your specific style of play and just for your specific style of play, and then break those plays. And then when the plays are broken, what's going to happen? Like, who's going to be the guy to make some offense happen? Last year, they had Slukas and Vezenkov. I feel like those guys were able to... Well, I remember Vezenkov's game winner. I remember Slukas' game winners and stuff like that. So I feel like this year, I just don't see the guy to take initiative when it comes to these clutch plays. And that's their biggest problem, I feel like. And I don't know, it's a bold thing to say, but I feel like the playoffs could be where they basically get stopped with this. Last year they were number 1, like you said, in the standings. This year they're 6th. I mean, that system lets them be there, but I feel like what I just said before, I'm not going to repeat myself. I feel like they might be stopped by some more prepped team in the playoffs.
I think it really depends on if they do get a home court advantage. Like, it's really important for them in the playoffs. Everybody's talking how it's not important only if you have game 5, but home court advantage is basically that. You have the last game at home. So,
and Olympiacos had consecutive game 5 series in the last 2 seasons. So
against Monaco too. So I think it's really important though these last 7 games for Olympiacos to get the home court advantage. And we are going to talk about it a little bit later, since one of my teams that I prepared is basically the race for the second place and the race for the home court advantage in the playoffs.
I actually tried to check what bookmakers think about the favorites to win the EuroLeague. And of course, except from Real Madrid, there's a huge gap between Real Madrid and others. And the first few teams that are coming after Real Madrid is Barcelona, Monaco, and Panathinaikos. Olympiacos is just slightly below these teams. There's Fenerbahce, again, a little bit below. And then there's a huge gap until Virtus, Maccabi, and Partizan comes. So I kind of agree with that idea that Monaco, Panathinaikos, Olympiacos, Barca, and even Fenerbahce, I think that after Shara's takeover, they got better and they will be better with some time. So it's going to be a hell of a season, because some of these teams that I mentioned, being in a race for the title, some of them, they are still in the play-in pool. So it's tough.
What I was thinking, I feel like if they finish in the second half of if they don't have the advantage, like what Augusta said, if they finish 5th to 8th, like let's say they end up in the play-in but still qualify, I feel like then I don't see them going to the Final Four. But if they are there, like, because they can be 4th easily, like it's only 1 win away. If they are
and they can be 8th or 7th pretty easily. So
yeah, that's true as well. But point being, I feel like if they make it through the playoffs, I feel like in the Final Four their chances are better than in the playoffs. As weird as it seems, but in one game, I favor having this system and having to rely on the whole team, rather than, if your one star player, Mike James, has a bad game. I mean, and if your whole offense is dependent on how he plays, it's a bit more risky in a single game elimination. So I feel like in the Final Four, I see them winning the EuroLeague championship more than actually getting to Final Four. Yeah, you see what I mean?
It makes sense. And but
just go on. Just one. No, you said,
since we're talking about standings, I thought I had this crazy idea. I mean, if EuroLeague was really a mafia, and if everything was scripted and corrupted, for some it's already mafia, but we'll check if it's true, if it's really mafia. I would try to keep the same standings as we have it right now, because let's take a look at potential playoff matchups. I'm thinking about the EuroLeague TV ratings. I want to have them as high as possible, and if I'm EuroLeague mafia, I'm keeping these standings. Because look what happens.
But only 2 interesting
3 matches.
No. Look what happens. We have play-in, right?
Yeah.
First of all, we have play-in. And let's say Fenerbahce wins against Vitoria and they secure the 7th seed. Okay. They're 7th. Partizan actually, they won against Valencia.
I see what you're doing.
They have this head-to-head advantage, so they get into the play-in. And let's say they beat both Maccabi and Baskonia for the 8th seed. And Partizan is 8th.
Yeah.
And so Partizan would play Maccabi in Belgrade in an empty gym.
I mean,
that's not the point.
That's cool. But the point is
getting to the.
The point is that they're playing Real Madrid in the playoffs.
Yeah, I see.
We have Fenerbahce against Barca.
Yeah,
there is this
storyline
history, with Shara's, Barca and stuff. It's very spicy. Olympiacos, Panathinaikos. Olympiacos, Panathinaikos in the playoffs. I mean, to have 5 games in this series would be amazing. And okay, you can say that Monaco Virtus might be not intriguing as much as others. Yes, it's hard to match the drama of all the 3 other series, but I look from a different perspective. One of them.
You would still go to Monaco to watch this series, right?
No, not this time. For sure, bro. Not this time.
For sure, he's going to Monaco.
We have two real back-to-back EuroCup champs in this series because the last one didn't make it to the EuroLeague. They refused to join the tournament. So these are the most fresh EuroCup champions. They have personalities. Mike James, we have Virtus, a Cinderella story, amazing team-oriented basketball. So one of them makes the Final Four, and probably they're going to be kind of underdogs of that Final Four. So in the future, it will help. But those playoff matchups, it's my dream scenario to have those teams. I'm not saying anything bad against Baskonia, Maccabi, or Valencia, or whatever, but for the EuroLeague tier ratings, this is something that they would need.
So let's do it really quick. Real quick predictions on this stupid idea that this stays as it is. Who's your Final Four then, if we go quickly? So Real or no?
I don't know, man.
You wouldn't pick?
Nah.
Okay, if you're not picking, I'm not gonna pick.
Let's keep this predictions podcast
for later,
the playoffs because that's how it's going to happen.
Yeah,
EuroLeague is mafia, so they're gonna make this playoffs happen. So let's keep content for the future episodes. But if you have any crazy scenarios, if you have any predictions to share,
no. I was just gonna say I would probably prefer Fenerbahce over Barcelona. Out of all the underdog teams, I feel like
this is not a surprising pick, my friend.
I know. Yeah. It's not. I understand it's not. Yeah.
But I mean, if anybody of our listeners or viewers also want to predict something or to go with some early ideas, they can create them by themselves. And they can also create it on their own websites. And
how would they do that?
Good suggestion how you can make it easy without having any expertise, any experience in building websites. Guys like me, for instance, I'm really bad at it, but there's a great tool that Hostinger offers, Hostinger Website Builder, which helps to create those websites like so easy. You can create business sites, portfolios, or even an online store with the help of AI. No coding skills, as I said, no technical expertise are required. And it is designed so easy that you can just basically drag and drop and to build your own website. So that's what Hostinger offers through Hostinger Website Builder. The main features, the key things that they offer, AI Website Builder, AI tools, mobile builder, e-commerce, marketing integrations, and templates. And our viewers and listeners can get an additional 10% discount for all hosting plans by using a code BNews10. So free domain, free AI website builder is included. So start building your dream business right now.
I love that it's all like what they call it, all in one kind of a shop where you get, everything from the domain to the hosting server to the actual website. That's something that I think not all the website builders that there are offer. So this is what I like the most about it. I've tried to use some of the other ones. I feel like AI could really be the game changer in this one. So I'll need to try some hosting or website building. Although I don't know what website I need because I don't know. I don't really see what I should do.
For the boxing thing? For MMA or whatever? No.
So I'm just doing news. Just for BasketNews, I can do MMA news.
Not news, but you could do, I don't know, opinions or whatever.
I don't think people read the news anymore, the opinions anymore.
Hey, but
Rather
anyway,
do a video.
I think this discount is really will help a lot of people because do you know the difference between how many websites there were in 2010 and how many there are now in the entire world?
Of course we don't.
Can you guess, 2010, how many websites there were?
So can you tell us how many were then, and then we can try to guess at least the other
206 million.
So, okay, that was 2010.
2010. All
so
websites.
It has to be
so now it's like
billion of websites.
5 billion.
No, 5 billion is too much. Almost 1.1 billion.
Okay.
Of course, there's the active websites are only almost 18%. So it's like 192 million. So there is a lot of websites, that we say we have a lot of podcasts, but websites are even more helpful to the people to do whatever they want to do in their lives. And I feel like lately, after the pandemic, everybody started going this individual way, doing whatever they want to do. And I think that Hostinger can help you here a lot.
I just remembered why I would need a website why I needed one before this job. I had to do a portfolio. So if you want to showcase your work, you don't want to send emails to the potential employer,
the PDF
with just
attached
PDF or just links to your work. That's a bit amateur. You want to show that you're a professional. Build a little website. It's so easy. It's just if it's a portfolio one, you just need to do a little bit of just a template you can use. They have templates. They have AI creator, so you can do it custom as well. That's a good idea, I think, to do a website instead of
I didn't think about it. Yeah, that's a good one. So BNews 10, get this 10% discount for all hosting plans. Ricky Rubio returned. We already discussed enough, how it changed Barcelona chances of, let's say, winning the EuroLeague, what kind of Ricky Rubio we're going to witness in the last few months of the season. He had 5 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist in 11 minutes in a loss to Monaco. But we had a different perspective on this topic. Gytis, could you recall, you have a list of biggest star returns to Europe. So we tried to understand the scale of Rubio's return, because with his resume, with his achievements, with his history, if you remember, he was projected as big European player coming to change the NBA as well. Probably didn't happen. No, if you remember the hype, it was a different story. But to have him back in Europe after all those years, after 13 years, it's huge, and it's crazy that he's still quite young, 33 years old.
Yeah.
And there are just few guys that actually played in the EuroLeague when he made his EuroLeague debut. But let's talk about the biggest stars and where Ricky Rubio can actually rank in this list.
I was thinking about how to do this. I did a top 5, and I was thinking whether it's more important to look at their NBA career or their impact when they came back. Because some guys were, I don't know, I feel like I did the list based on their NBA career.
Okay.
And then one guy is over another just because of his name in Europe, and then what he did after coming back.
Okay, go ahead.
We'll start with number 5. Marko Jaric is my 5th in this top 5 of biggest returns. I did have a 5-year minimum NBA careers, because you could get players like, I don't know, who played there for 3 years, for example. But I thought this is about those guys that got established in the NBA. So.
I forgot about Jaric. Where did he play in the EuroLeague?
In the EuroLeague, he played with Virtus.
Before in the NBA.
Yeah. Oh, after
the
he
NBA.
came back to Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And then
in Messina's era, right?
And back to Messina. Had half of a season there because he only came back in the middle of I think January or something. And then he played that season. Then again, from October, didn't play till January. And then went to Montepaschi Siena to finish that season. And after that one, he also, again, stopped playing and was waiting for the 2011, I think. So when it turned to 2012, he was trying to get a contract in the with the NBA teams.
Okay.
From the NBA career-wise, 7 years, solid years. He was a starter for most seasons, and was playing 30 or so minutes every season, except when he got into Memphis.
Okay. Who's your number 4?
Number 4, I got. He's not the most recent one, but it's the biggest shocker, I think. Nikola Mirotic, when he came back in 2019 in his prime, you would say. We've done countless videos on him, and then the reasons why he came back, because of his family or because of other things that in America he didn't enjoy. So I think he had the most promising future in the NBA, and he left. Like out of these guys, he could have stayed. Like the only one who could have actually stayed and had a great career, because most of the other ones were coming back in the second half of their
It's so
career.
surprising that he returned, because the NBA game was made for, soft Europeans to perform.
We'll get there. We'll get
Wow.
there. We'll get there.
That was really weird. That was a shocker. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but what he was averaging like 17 points in like final year with Chicago, then traded, and then still was all right. Like he was a wanted piece.
He was good.
He was getting an offer, what was it, in the range of 45 to 50 million.
3 years, 45 million.
From Utah.
Yeah. And refused that, came to Barcelona. You remember all that story. And that first year in Barcelona, though, remember? Averaging 19 points. He was like a...
He was playing for Pešić, right?
Yeah. That was still before Šaras, yeah. He was the superstar back then. Now
He was also superstar beyond.
Huh?
He was actually superstar even in Šaras years. He made it.
Yeah,
he made him even more efficient.
Yeah, efficient.
And that's when he got his MVP title.
Okay, should we go to number 3?
Number 3, yeah.
Andrei Kirilenko.
Oof, that's a good list, man.
Yeah, 10 years in the NBA. No, not 10 years. 10 years in Utah, sorry.
Okay.
Then let me just open up quickly. Basically, I feel like he had not the best career out of the guys, because there's one guy that had a better one. But he was playing there like a solid, I would say in the Utah years, he was a starter all the time. He was one of the faces of that team. Of course, Deron Williams, but he was one of those guys that you associate with that team. And I feel like
all-star ones.
And it was an all-star defensive player, like in the defensive team a few times. And when he came back the first time, if you remember, he came back during the lockdown.
Lockout.
Lockdown. That's COVID talk. Yeah, lockout. When he joined the Moscow team for, I think, half a season as well, because that was from And basically, if you remember, he had the MVP season. He was freaking balling there. But that's not why I feel like we can't.
Did he win MVP?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
He's the EuroLeague MVP of 2012, and I feel like that's not the return we're supposed to talk about, because then he came back to the NBA after, signed with Minnesota, with Brooklyn. And in Brooklyn, it was those years where he started going down. Like he was getting older, basically, and then after that came back to Moscow. But it's a crazy story how he actually quit the NBA. He was traded from Brooklyn to 76ers, and then when you're traded, you're supposed to just kind of come to Philadelphia,
just go there,
show up, right? And he just never showed up. He never even answered the contacts. He apparently had some problems with his family. Someone had health issues or something, so he stayed in Brooklyn. And then he just came back after not showing up with the Sixers in that same season. He came back in the middle of the 2014-15 season. Came back to CSKA. And he wasn't playing as good as he was in that lockout season, but they made it to the Final Four, lost to the Olympiacos. But I feel like he deserves the third spot because of how solid of a player he was in the NBA.
Yeah.
Big name. And then what kind of a season he had with in the lockout year. Okay, number 2 is Arvydas Sabonis. I feel like that's a must here.
I thought that you might put him number 1.
Yeah, I thought you might think that as well. But if we're evaluating NBA careers, I feel like it's impossible.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't know what you want to know about Arvydas. I feel like everyone knows everything about him, especially at this table. But his return was probably the most sort of successful in terms of individual performance after he came back to Europe. If you look at that, all these other guys. I mean, you could argue Nikola Mirotic had more years, of course, but Sabonis in that retro episode we watched in the 03-04 season, he was the regular season MVP.
Top 16 MVP as well.
Yeah, almost made the Final Four if it wasn't like Tanaka Beard.
He was 39.
Yeah. He was at that age as well. Like when you thought he was already broken and injury-ridden, going to the NBA. He comes back at 39 and dominates in Europe. So I feel like that also puts him, even though I would say his career in the NBA, you might say it wasn't as good as Kirilenko's, to be honest.
Nope.
So, but his impact when he came back and
also
the legend he was
his
before.
Story before the NBA.
Like his name was incredibly big. Yeah. So, did you know the story about him actually signing with Žalgiris in 01-02 season? He was like, I'm retiring from NBA.
Mm-hmm.
And then he left the Trailblazers after the 01 season, signed with Žalgiris, but then he didn't play. He just was recovering from the injuries. And then the next year he came back to Trailblazers, played the season, and then he came back to Žalgiris again.
Yeah, and he actually played for free. No salary, nothing. He was active.
He was the
president of that club. So
I don't know if there was any other player president in the history of the EuroLeague.
Probably not. We
Probably
had some cases
coach.
in EuroCup with some crazy owners who locked some minutes in the EuroCup competition. But I mean, nothing close to Sabonis level. I mean, at that age to dominate the game at such a level is huge. I actually checked. Speaking of old guys, I checked where Marco Bellinelli stands in those all-time career average points per game lists with his average, because he's just cooking 14.8 points per game in the EuroLeague at the age of 37, and he turns 38 pretty quickly. And just having players with at least 37 years old, he's third all time. There was Arvydas Sabonis averaging 16.6, and Wendell Alexis from Alba Berlin, when he was 36 years old, he was averaging 16.4 points per game. So
I would like to apologize to Marco Jaric for taking him out of the 5th place and replacing him with Marco Bellinelli, because I just realized that's a better pick for that 5th spot. He had a very long career. That's 6, 9, 10.
Who, Marco?
14 seasons in the NBA. I mean, you can't argue with that. 14 seasons in the NBA is a bit.
And when Marco returned, he averaged 7 points in Real Madrid. And in Basket Siena, following year, he was averaging 5 points and 1.3 assists.
Yeah, I think we must swap it out now, if I'm being honest. All right.
So number one,
you know who it is. The most recent one.
The guy who's over there?
Pau Gasol, yeah.
Our guy, yeah.
No, yeah, well, he's here. I feel like that's the biggest NBA career in this list. The most notable. I mean, he played with Kobe and won
European GOAT in the NBA conversation.
Yeah.
So
He's there. He's one of those like four or five players we talk about. You know, that Dwayne Wade podcast that they had, like those 3 guys were probably in that conversation. Yeah. I feel like there's not much to say. The guy was he was an all-star, multiple time all-star,
NBA champ,
twice NBA champion. I mean, just a superstar. Came back to Europe, but at the age where he was already going down. He was in the NBA the last years, basically after Chicago Bulls. I feel like all those seasons were a bit like not remarkable. He kind of like that game changed. Like the game changed after 2015 or so. We're gonna talk about that. But interestingly enough, the European guy got pushed out of that game, huh? But yeah, I feel like his style of play was he transformed into a 5 when he used to be a 4, so I feel like his post. But remember that run with Barcelona? They made it to the final.
Yeah, but I remember there was so much hype about his return, as if Pau Gasol joins Barcelona, they're going to be undefeated. They are going to win the EuroLeague title for sure. But a lot of people didn't realize that he was not playing for a lot of time already.
He's kind of 40 years old.
He had injuries, and the EuroLeague has changed. For instance, I'm not sure if Arvydas Sabonis from that 2003 and 4 season would be, dominating the EuroLeague
Oh,
basketball
no, yeah,
right now.
no.
So in Paul Gasol's case, it was different. But I just remember this feel of, now nobody's going to stop Barca. When I was like, okay, just relax. Let's wait and see, in what kind of shape he is, how he's going to play in defense. And I remember him having couple game-changing performances off the bench, and especially I think it was in the playoff series against Zenit, could be. But we are talking about a couple games.
He was constantly, I remember, targeted on defense.
Yeah.
In every possession, he was involved in the pick and roll, and it was somebody's attacking him and then seeing what happens. They were that close from winning actually the EuroLeague title. If you remember, Anadolu Efes with Larkin and Vasa Micic there did their thing in the fourth quarter, won that EuroLeague title.
I was
well
just
deserved,
thinking,
but it was so close that Gasol would have won also the EuroLeague title.
I was just all the time thinking, how much of these minutes that he's getting right now is just because of his name? Because I was like, okay, so Sharas, like, he doesn't give minutes just because he needs to, right? He really just wants to win the game. He can bench you if you're the star, all that. And then I'm seeing like Pau Gasol being put into the games when he's clearly a liability. And thinking, okay, so this is just respect. This is just because they played together, because he's such a big name, or because they were kind of forcing him into the court. I feel like a little bit. Like
he was averaging just 12 minutes per
Objectively.
game, and he was efficient offensively, like 6.5 points, almost 5 rebounds in 12 minutes. So he wasn't that bad.
But what I'm trying to say is because he joined so late. They needed to get him into shape, so he was getting some minutes in advance. I feel like with some.
Probably that's how it works.
He was still like in offense. He was, there was Nick Kalidas on the team, but he's one of the best passers out there. And there was Brandon Davis at the center position, and then there was Artem Pustovi and Pierre Oriola and Roland Schmitz and Mirotic in that front court. So basically, he is the second center, and those 12 minutes were the right amount of time for him.
All right, so that's the top 5. Do you guys agree?
That's a good list.
Now with Bellinelli, I think it's a good
Even
list.
Viaric, it was a name that came out of nowhere. Really forgot about his return to Europe.
Who was number 4?
Mirotic?
Number 4, Mirotic, then Kirilenko, Sabonis, Gasol.
Would you put Bellinelli over Mirotic for the better NBA career, maybe? And longer.
You could say, but if we're talking, well, it depends what's the criteria. For me, it was a bigger bigger shocker that Nicola came back just because he was in his prime. But when Bellinelli came back, it was kind of like already not washed, but like obviously not because he's playing. He's playing great. Like last season, maybe you would think that he got an old. But
Yeah.
And do you think that Bellinelli actually had a better career than Mirotic?
I mean, if you look at the amount of
except
years,
from the NBA championship
and Spurs, that was a good year.
Except for the NBA championship, you just said like it was nothing.
And
it's
then,
not nothing, but he wasn't the main guy on that team.
He was still.
And Mirotic was never
rotation player.
performing in the playoffs in the NBA, so like you could look at that as well. He was always underperforming in the playoffs. When it came to the NBA playoffs, and then the same in
if
in
Nikola
the EuroLeague.
Vucevic came back right now to Europe, would you say he would belong to this top 5 list because he has better stats?
I don't know.
I wouldn't say so. I mean,
in this championship season in the playoffs, Bellinelli was scoring 5 points. So I don't know. Titles are great, but even Darko Milicic is the NBA champion. So what? I mean,
you can't compare Darko Milicic
as a main
to Marco
criteria.
Bellinelli.
No, I'm just saying that there were a lot of NBA champions. So
do you, okay, this is the question.
I'm just not sure about
would
to me it's at least
Charles Barkley would disagree.
Would Nicola be able to stay there for 14 seasons like Bellinelli? Do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, I think
he could have stayed. Yeah,
because
he could have stayed.
He had like 7 seasons or so, I think.
No, I think it's really possible with the way you. Okay, maybe
so
maybe not 14, but whatever.
Yeah. What you got, Augustus, for us?
I have top 3 teams to watch for the remaining 7 games. And I basically looked at this and I made 3 questions. First one is somebody from the outside of the plane is going to make it there. Who is going to be and who will they push out? And here I have my first team. And probably it's no surprise to anyone, but that name, Partizan Belgrade, they're currently in the 11th spot. And if you remember, last year, they made a really great playoff push in the last part of the season. They were 13 and 12 until March. And this year, they were 12 and 14. It's pretty similar. And then they went 7 and 2 in their last 9 games after the domestic cup break last season, Partizan. So I looked at their schedule, and Odomas, can you put that picture? Here you have, shout out to Clutch Data _ on Twitter. This was after the domestic cup break. And you see what every team is going to play, their strength of schedule in the middle where you see those percentages. And Partizan basically have quite an average schedule remaining.
Is it if it's less, then it's weaker teams? If it's bigger, then it's stronger teams? Is that how it works?
Yes,
okay.
Yes. And as you see, Partizan's strength of schedule is 51%. They're in the 8th spot. It's quite in the middle. They have, let's say, a lot of games at home. And it's not going to be as easy. You know, they have, right now, they will face Barcelona away, Milano away, Baskonia, Real Madrid, and Olympiacos at home. And they will finish the season by playing Alba away and Valencia in their last game. And I think this can be a really interesting one because, you know, Valencia and Partizan might have the head-to-head. They might be really close. And I think they're a team to watch because, as they said, they usually play better in the last part of the season. Last year, they made this fantastic push. The games at home that they will have, the crowd will give them a huge boost, as they always do. But there's 2 games that I'm looking forward the most. There's going to be the Real Madrid game in Belgrade. And we all know that's probably the most awaited game for the season for those fans, except for the derby, and the Olympiacos. It's not the most friendly fan bases, so it's also going to be a huge game for those fans, and I think the team is going to be electric. So based on my belief that Partizan can be a little bit better than they are right now, I think they're going to make that push and be in the play-in. And although I have to say that they have quite, disappointed me, let's say this season, I think Matthias Lesor and his departure has been too big. They haven't been able to change him. His defense, rebounds, more importantly, the energy. I think he was the connector also between the fans and the team. It seems like he was the main motor of the team energy-wise. And yeah, so in that case, I'm disappointed in them. But I just think they're going to be a little bit better now that everyone is back. You know, Željko usually gets his system going in the last part of the season. The team plays much better. They have only the 8th offense in the second part of the season since the new year. I looked also into this. You know, we always talk how Partizan offense is great, first, second, or third. Right now, they're only 8th. But like as I said last year, I'm basing this on what they did last year. I'm basing this that they have everybody back right now, and based on their schedule, because a lot of these games will mean a lot from them. And away from home, where they are really bad, they're playing only Alba, and they're playing Barcelona and Milano. I think they can definitely win in Milano. They must win against Alba, and okay, Barcelona is the most difficult game here. But you know, if they can win 2 of those 3 games away, I think they're going to do their job at home. And I think they're going to make to the play-in because Valencia and Baskonia have the top 4 strongest remaining schedules. So I think Valencia or Baskonia are going to be, one of those teams are going to be out of the play-in, let's say. Do you think Partizan can make it? Donatas already said he wants because he wants the matchup with Real Madrid.
EuroLeague Mafia.
EuroLeague wants, yeah.
But do you think they can get there? What's your opinion on Partizan state recently?
I would be surprised if Partizan is not in the play-in, but the only concern, or one of the concerns that I have, you spoke about this second half of the season improvement in Partizan, or what's usual in Željko Obradovic's teams, because that was the way he was also building the team for the playoffs in Fenerbahce years and etc. The only concern is that this transition is not as smooth. Matthias Lazort is not coming through that door. Dante Exum is not there, and PJ Dozier is not as consistent as Dante was. So these small tweaks might actually be important in Partizan's chances of making noise in the playoffs. I think that they will be in the play-in, but if they're going to be able to make the same noise in the playoffs, that's, to me, compared to the last year, it's a tougher challenge for them. But of course, Željko is the playoffs coach, so he's the best in making those adjustments and to put his team in the best situation. But if team with these new faces, with these players that had to change those great players like Lazort and Exum, if they're ready to catch up with Željko and the big opponent that they're going to face in the playoffs, we'll see if it's Real Madrid or whatever. That's the question.
I think it would be great for them already to make the playoffs. As I said, they're definitely not at the level they wanted to be before the season. And seeing their position right now, playing is also tough. If you are in the 9th or 10th spot, you have to win 2 games. And one of those games have to be away. So that's tough. And it's hard for me to see making
both of the games would be away. No?
In the play-in?
If you're 9th or 10th, you're always playing away.
No, if you're 9th, if you're 9th, then you're playing the first game at home.
First game, okay.
Against the 10th spot. So, but still, you have to win 2 games only to make it to the playoffs. So I think they should just
face Real anyways.
They should just concentrate on this strong push in the last 7 games. And looking at their schedule, it's not the easiest. It's not of the hardest ones. And if they can get those 2 wins away from home, I think they will do their job.
I just want to say thank you for reminding me that there's one more game to be waiting for, and that's the Real Madrid and Partizan at home. Because I was thinking all this season that, I can't wait until Kostas Lukas comes back to the Peace and Friendship Stadium. But now, with that story last year, I want to see this even more probably. So, yeah.
And can we actually give a credit to how great play-in is right now? Because if we had this standard playoff format, okay, there is still a race for the 8th seed.
Only for the last spot, right?
But for the last spot, because the first 7 teams, they're kind of in a solid situation. And lock is a very bold statement. Because let's say Fenerbahce, they're 7th and they're 2 wins. They have a 2-win advantage over Baskonia and Maccabi. But you can say that they're in a confident situation.
Mm-hmm. But if they lose 7 games, which they won't, but that's why they're not a lock.
In my eyes, there are no locks in this case. But anyways, the play-in, puts Partizan, Valencia in a interesting situation. Even Bayern Munich, that improved their game before Milan, FS, Žalgiris. Okay, their chances are not as high, but they're just 2 wins away from the play-in. So we're talking about 15 teams being involved in this race. So that's a huge thing. How a little tweak changed even puts more drama to this great competition.
And I would say 15 teams is a bit of a stretch. But simply because I don't believe in quite a few of these teams that you just mentioned. I think
they literally need a perfect run and good circumstances.
I think Partizan can make it. I think Bayern, and Milano for sure no, FS for sure no, Žalgiris I believe just because I'm Lithuanian, because they basically have to lose only once in their last 7 games. So it's really hard to see that happening, but who knows?
I'm just happy to see that Alba Berlin is tanking this season, getting that first pick next season, and the rebuild is on. Yeah, okay. Any other teams you got?
Yeah, my second team is Virtus Bologna. And let me explain this. We have been talking about them. They're 17 and 10th right now. They're in They're standing pretty good there. They were in the top 3 for almost all of the season. But right now, since round 18, so again, I'm looking how the teams have been doing after the new year. Virtus have the 16th offense, so the 3rd worst offense in the league, while they were top 5 to start the season. And I understand there were some injuries, but my question is, do you think we are seeing the end of their first part of the season fairy tale? And it's simply, I think that they're regressing to the mean. I think they overperformed in the first part of the season. I'm simply saying that they were playing slightly better than the overall talent they have on that team. And I know how much more simple the game can be when you are like this. You have this team chemistry, you change the coach, you start winning a couple of games, you start believing in yourself way more, and you start winning games that maybe you shouldn't have won. So I think they're just regressing to the mean, and because their schedule is pretty hard, I would say, in the end.
I think that it's the 3rd most difficult schedule among the teams that are in the playoff race.
You see here that they have the 5th strongest schedule remaining, 55%. And my question is, will they make the playoffs? Because I think they're falling below the 6th place. And if they fall below, they will have to be in the play-in. And I'm not sure if this season basically fairy tale, because you can call Virtus like that, because we all imagined them in the 15th or 16th spot before the season. So can this season's fairy tale even make the playoffs? I think that's the question, because they have Olympiacos away. That's a tough game.
And that's a direct competitor for those spots there.
I'll get there after this. They have Real Madrid at home. That's not hard. You have Žalgiris in Kaunas. They're still fighting for that.
And Trikeri lost only 1 game at home, so...
Yeah. Then they have Zvezda away in the Stark Arena. Panathinaikos at home. Panathinaikos just beat Real Madrid in Madrid. Then they have the Italian derby against Milano.
Away
in Mediolanum Forum. That's not an easy game to win. And so basically you have these 6 games in really tough environments.
And you have Baskonia at home.
And you have Baskonia at home.
Baskonia potentially will be in the play-in or the playoff race as well.
So worst case scenario, they would finish 18 and 16. Let's say they lose 6, win 1.
But, I think they're getting like 2 games out of these 7. But I don't think that's going to be enough for the 6th place, because Olympiacos and Fener are just 1 win below them right now.
Yeah.
Fenerbahce has the tiebreaker over them. And Olympiacos have won their first matchup. And they will play this week in Piraeus, which probably Virtus, I'm expecting Olympiacos to win. So they wouldn't have the tiebreakers over Fener or Olympiacos. And that will mean they will have to fight in the playoff. So in the play-in, I'm sorry.
As a 7th, most likely as a 7th.
Yeah,
spot.
because there is such a big difference between the 7th and 8th spot right now. So... it's not looking good. If you combine all those things I mentioned, only the 16th offense, by the net rating, they're the 2nd worst team after New Year. And we are talking about a team that was in the top 5 for the most part of the season.
I mean, their plus minus right now, is -5. That's the only plus minus in that top 7, which is, and everyone else is like plus 49 is the next score. So
So I don't know, guys. What do you think about Virtus?
I agree with your take, especially after you're providing that schedule with so much detail. I agree that they could fall as low as 7, and in some circumstances, if let's say, I don't know, Baskonia or Maccabi keeps winning, you could see them going as low as 8 even. But I think they're still gonna make the play-in at least, right? Like
play-in for sure.
But with the playoffs,
if they lose all games right now, they're making the play-in.
Yeah.
Yeah, this top 3 teams to watch list was like Augusta's assignment for this podcast, but I also checked those teams, and the only notes I had was actually about Virtus, and it was the same concern, the same calendar. Yeah, you mentioned those names, and we're talking about 2 of their 3 home games against the top 3 EuroLeague clubs. So how it makes this challenge to protect the home court even tougher. So, I mean, I want them in the playoffs because they represent the underdogs and the Cinderella story and the beautiful team basketball. But I'm just really concerned about their schedule. So it's not going to be easy.
And my last pick for the top 3 teams to watch for these last 7 games is, and Donatas, you will like this. Can you guess the team? It's Monaco, right?
Okay. I'm not Ritas, so I have few more picks to choose from. So it was not that easy for me.
We can again look at this strength of schedule. They have the easiest remaining schedule of all 18 teams, and this was made before they played against Barcelona. So you see Monaco line away, they have Barcelona, Alba, and Asvel. So they just won their hardest remaining game that they had in their last 8 games.
Wow.
And they're tied right now.
Schedule.
They're tied right now for the third spot with Panathinaikos and Virtus. They have 5 remaining games out of 7 at home, and the 2 away games are Alba and Asvel.
Of course, don't forget that Monaco's home court advantage is probably the least in the whole
It's
EuroLeague.
true, but you're still playing at home.
At least you're not playing again in the opponents.
You are used to the rims. The opposing teams are not. So, and they're playing at home against teams that are not all non-playoff teams at the moment. Zvezda, Milano, Valencia, Žalgiris, and Bayern, and they have Mike James, who is playing at an absolute MVP this season. Like, there is no doubt, I think, in my mind, in my eyes,
there are a lot of good guys. Yeah.
Mike is playing like an MVP. It's hugely important, and I think why Monaco have been so good recently. Jordan Lloyd finally looks healthy, and when they're all together, they're a different beast. They have the second best defense in the entire league since New Year, the second best team in net rating. So, they have, I think they're all things aligned for a strong finish. And they have a head-to-head 2-0 against Barcelona. And over Olympiacos, they also have a tiebreaker.
And Pau?
And with Pau, they have 0-2.
Okay.
1-1 versus the Virtus, but Virtus has the tiebreaker, and against Fener, they have the tiebreaker. But I looked at all those teams that I just mentioned schedules, and I tried to predict how they will finish. And I'm not going to talk about all that in detail, but I just have Real Madrid 1. That's easy. Monaco in second place. So that they.
That was my question. Do you think they can go as high as the second seed? So
I really think
it looks realistic
with
the
that
schedule that they have.
now. Yeah.
I really think, the end of season is unpredictable most of the time. But I think Monaco finishes in second place with 23 or 24 wins. I think Barcelona is third. I think Olympiacos gets the 4th spot. Panathinaikos is 5th.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm not surprised. But I mean, I'm not surprised because this is Olympiacos podcast. But at the same time,
how is
I'm a bit
that?
surprised. Why you? Why do you think that Panathinaikos will drop?
Yeah.
It's not that
I think
they
going
have
to
such a difficult schedule, right?
I think they're going to have the same amount of wins. I predict Olympiacos from 21 to 23 and Pau 21 to 22. And Pau have 3 games at home, Asvel, Barca, and Alba, and 4 games away, Olympiacos. So that's, I think, going to be a really deciding game. Zvezda, Virtus, and Bayern.
I don't know.
Doesn't sound
too
forced
bad.
schedule to me. I can see them taking
And what
5,
about
6, or 7 wins in the remaining schedule.
The Greek derby is going to be the decider here, basically. And the Olympiacos schedule, it looks like 4 games at home: Virtus, Pau, Asvel, Fener, and 3 away games: Efes, the worst defense in the league; Partizan, the worst defense in the league; and Zvezda.
Partizan away is never easy. Like you said.
It's right.
Numbers wise, maybe, but yeah, I don't know, man.
I'm thinking that Olympiacos is just going to win the derby, and that's why I have these two teams. It doesn't really matter. I think they're going to be in the 4th and 5th.
Yeah. So they're gonna play in the playoffs anyways.
Each other. But as well, it's really important for those two teams who is going to have the home court advantage there.
Okay, so and then...
But my main point was, you made it about the Greeks. My main point was about Monaco, that they're going to be
Greeks, man. It's all about the Greeks,
in the
bro.
second place.
And then you would say that Fener climbs to 6, and then Virtus drops to 7, and then whoever makes the play-in makes the play-in. Okay, gotcha.
Playoff time is an amazing thing, and I cannot believe that we're just 5 weeks away from the play-in. And this playoff period, to me, it illustrates those good old days when I was watching, like, I remember the first thing that comes to my mind, I remember watching the NBA finals. And since the NBA finals were starting at like 3 or 4 in the morning in Lithuania, as soon as the game was finished, I was about to go outside and hoop. Because, you know, it was June, May, it was a good time. Even in Lithuania, it was warm enough already to have some shoot around at 8 o'clock. So the spring that we have already means it's an outdoor basketball time, right?
Yes.
And for that, a well-fitting equipment is a must. And you know who can deliver fast, quick with this well-fitting equipment? SK Store. SKStore.eu has sent us 2 balls, Spalding EuroLeague ball and SK Store's branded ball to play outdoors. Actually, we have some plans to building some outdoor basketball court in our small garden that
I just
we have.
mentioned as a stupid idea. So you're saying we should go outside to play on the pavement, on the concrete with a white ball, right? Because it's definitely gonna stay this color.
That one is for that one for the indoors. This one is for the outdoors.
Okay.
Because this looks like this is the EuroLeague official ball, but this one is made for both outdoor and indoor. You can even see it here, and the grip is different from the one you play in the indoors, and that one looks like the money ball for the NBA All-Star shooting competition. That one looks actually. I don't know if I've seen a white ball before. I definitely haven't hooped.
Not this quality. I was gonna say, you know what? You know, when they have those team balls, like Žalgiris ball or whatever team balls, they are usually the lowest quality, the ones that you get for
synthetic.
€5. This one's like actually has a nice grip. You could actually play with this ball basketball. Like you could play basketball with this. So SK Store ball, check it out. And check out SK Store itself with all the great jerseys that we already got as nice gifts from them. Pau Gasol, Tony Parker, Wembanyama.
They have basketball shoes as well. A lot of basketball gear, retro stuff, retro sneakers, and you can be surprised of findings that you might actually find on skstore.eu. As in the last episode, we found Penny Hardaway's retro jerseys, some cool stuff. So check out their website. And also there's a discount for Partners Club loyalty program members, which rewards every of your shopping decisions. Sign up, collect 5% discount of your first purchase, and collect Partners Club points. SK Store will reward every spent €1 with 4 Partners Club points. You can then exchange every 100 points for €1 discount on your next shopping. So visit skstore.eu and join Partners Club to get ready for the upcoming playoff season.
Yeah. The only thing we would like to see at some point is the EuroLeague edition as well, I think, because that's what we're missing. I would like a jersey of a EuroLeague player as well. Not like
who's your first pick? Let's say we have a gift. You know, you got €100 to buy any EuroLeague jersey you want. Which one you're buying first?
So easy to say Mike James, right? Too easy to say that. I don't know. I need to think about it.
But this Mike James in black and golden, probably? This alternative or away?
We have somewhere their old red one. So yeah, definitely like the black one is the best looking one. You guys,
it makes sense.
Well, guys, you have anything that comes to
Mustafa.
Yeah, for you. the polar opposite of Augustus. Who would you get? I would get Slukas Olympiacos jersey.
Ooh.
Come on now.
And go to the
I would
playoffs
get
do vlogs for BasketNews. That's an idea.
Then I would get Kostas Lukas Panathinaikos jersey.
Yeah. And we can go together.
Slukash.
Nice.
Uh,
By the way, since you mentioned Mustafa Fall, I have a topic to
you
cover.
have a fact for this completely random.
No. We had a lot of extensions recently. We have Alec Peters signing an extension, Jan Vesely signing an extension with Barca, and actually our Tadas Sedekerski is signing this huge extension with Baskonia, 5-year deal. And I've heard that it's a pretty solid deal that for sure will put him as one of the best paid Lithuanians in the EuroLeague. So I was like, okay, let's check out other potential extension candidates that we have in the EuroLeague, because it's the time when the EuroLeague team starts recruiting some other new players or starts working and advancing those talks about possible extensions with the players that they have. So I have a list of 3 potential contract extension candidates. Let's say, based on it's going to be my educated guess of who you can expect to sign an extension. Some of them will be my own guesses, but let's say I won't be surprised if those guys will sign new contracts with the teams that they play right now. So since you mentioned Mustafa Fall, his situation is very interesting. He has a contract with Olympiacos until 2025. But he has an option for the next season, so it's not a guaranteed deal. And I heard that it's pretty relatively small buyout, either for him to leave the club or for somebody else to step in and to sign him. So it kind of puts Olympiacos in a situation where they can bring an improved offer and to give him an extension for, let's say, at least an extra year until 2026. Let's not forget that Mustafa Fall he turned 32 this February. And I believe a lot of teams will be after him in the market this summer because we might face a lot of changes among the other EuroLeague teams with their main centers. For instance, Tavares is on an expiring contract in Madrid. Monaco, I think, would love to have Fall as the local player in the center because they also have a flexibility in this position. Fenerbahce is looking for a center. Maccabi might be looking for a center. Milan, Efes. So a lot of potential suitors. And I see that Olympiacos might be willing or might be forced to improve the contract just to keep him. And I think that they need to keep him because, first of all, he's one of the best, if not the best, passing big. Great all-around center, producing career high numbers in efficiency this year, 14.2, shooting from the field 79%, assists 2.7, and blocks 1.2. He's always consistent with his defense and efficiency. For the 4th season in a row, he's averaging between 12th and 14th PAR per game in the EuroLeague. And we see that Nikola Milutinov has a tendency to get injured, and Mustafa Fall can contribute both as playing as the main center for big minutes or to split this playing time with Milutinov. So I think that knowing Olympiacos' tendency to keep the core, knowing they're giving an importance to the continuity, I think it's a pretty likely extension.
Yeah, I mean, he has been top 3, top 4 center in this league this season, as you mentioned. I don't need to repeat what you said, but one of the best passers, huge inside presence defensively. But you mentioned a lot of teams that are going to need a center in the summer. Yeah. So
let's say if I'm Real Madrid and if I like this, connection between a huge guy like Eddie Tavares and Vincent Poirier, who's actually on an expiring contract, I mean, I would go after Mustafa Fall.
Mm-hmm. If Tavares leaves, that's for sure. That's a no-brainer. If you enjoy that type of player profile at your center, basically your system wouldn't change that much. So that's ideal.
Yeah. The second guy that I have on my list, we actually mentioned him recently as well. We're talking about Mike James. He's playing one of his most quality seasons ever. I think that he is averaging career high in efficiency. He became the icon of Monaco as soon as he, put these Monaco jersey on him, and it's so nice and it's funny, and it's so symbolic that he joined them in their very first EuroLeague season. He's still with them. It's the first team that he stayed in for the third season. And I would love to see this, fairy tale to continue for probably 2 more years, because Mike also mentioned that his next contract is going to be his last one. And I think that there's no need for him to change places. I think that he found his place in Europe. He's unquestioned main guy on the team. And, I know that a lot of other teams might be looking for a highest level scorer in the market. We're talking about Panathinaikos, we're talking about Olympiacos, we're talking about Partizan, maybe some others will be in the mix. But Monaco can also build a convincing team. I heard that they also have, big plans to improve the roster the following year, and they can make a great winning team around Mike James. I mean, they made it to the playoffs game 5 in the first year. They made it to the final 4. And we see that. August just mentioned. We're talking about second seed in the regular season. So I know that, other clubs in the mix might say, hey, Mike, okay, you're all-time leader in points scored in the EuroLeague, but you're not going to be considered the GOAT if you're not going to win the championships in the EuroLeague. And if it's your last contract, this is the best situation for you to win the title. But I mean, Monaco can bring the same arguments. And a change is always, they require adjustments. They might take some time. And in Monaco, he probably has everything that he needs to reach those goals. And I think that there's mutual interest for all parts to stay and to try to win the title for Monaco, because I think that winning the title for Monaco also will put him on a fast track, because it's not your casual team to win the EuroLeague. It's not your traditional powerhouse to win the EuroLeague. So it takes less titles to make a legacy in the EuroLeague compared to playing for those biggest traditional powerhouses.
Just one thing you didn't mention: after living for 3 years in Monaco, I don't think there's any place Mike James wants to move to now.
Makes a lot of sense, man.
I mean, he's living probably in the most luxurious place you could live in terms of EuroLeague cities.
Yeah, and Mike likes luxury.
I think he does. So yeah. That's the only thing that's guaranteeing him to stay there.
How the hell he's not number 1 on this list? Like, that's the most important topic.
No,
of
man,
this
I just started with Mustafa Fall because you mentioned him, and I thought that that's an unexpected name to start the list. I'm not ranking those guys. I'm not ranking those guys.
He's not doing a rank. I think.
Okay. No, but it's just going to be the main topic for me to follow because of what happened last summer. We all remember those rumors, that all that stuff. So,
but this year, was very peaceful. He wasn't suspended, first of all.
The most peaceful and the best season that he's had, I would say.
So probably both parties, they kind of
yeah. Who else? They're
good. And the last name I have is Tornike Shengelia. His contract with Virtus runs until 2025, but again, like in Mustafa Fall's case, he has an option after the season to leave the club. I heard that it would cost the player, a few €100,000. It's not the easiest buyout, but given the potential interest that Tornike Shengelia can get this summer, it's doable. So he can leave Virtus, because I don't need to mention those teams that will be looking for bigs. And also, we're talking about a guy who's playing a great season with Virtus and who basically was one of the cornerstones, if not the cornerstone player, that made this Cinderella story to happen. With him being the best passing big, at least by assists in the EuroLeague, with him being top 8 in efficiency, top 13 in scoring, top 15 in rebounds, he gave a huge boost to Virtus. And let's not forget that we're talking about a great personality, great leader, great teammates. His experience, his mentorship would be a huge asset to any title contender team in the EuroLeague. So we're talking about the guy who is going to get a lot of interest. But I heard that Virtus desperately wants to keep him. I heard that they would like to extend him to a new, potentially 3-year contract. It's just not going to be easy, but they're trying really hard, and it's going to be an interesting summer in Tornike Šengelija's case as well. Just from these three guys, I'm most doubtful actually about Šengelija's extension, because I really think that he can move to our place.
Yeah, I'm just not. The only thing I find a bit, I don't know, like a negative thing in your list is that all the guys that you talked about are 32 and over. 32,
That's an
32, and
fact.
33.
Yeah.
And, these guys, wherever they move, might be they stay, might be their last contract, as you say. And probably they are in their peak right now, and they're only going to go down. I wish there was someone in this free agency that we would see grow in a new team to become a superstar of the EuroLeague.
I mean, we're talking about Keenan Evans probably. He's on an expiring contract. He's drawing huge interest among the EuroLeague powerhouses. But, it's impossible that he will get an extension from Žalgiris. There's no chance that he's staying. So, that's a topic for the upcoming episodes that we will have approaching the offseason. And for sure, Keenan Evans is one of the hottest names in the market. So, yeah, that was my list.
Do we have anything else, or?
Oh, we have the main topic of the podcast. We were teasing toward this topic, actually. We have a famous podcaster, Gilbert Arenas, delivering hot takes. And he became like Stephen A. of, basketball players doing podcasts. And he had this infamous quote about getting rid of all Europeans. Okay, the context was like this.
Sounds so bad when you just say that, but that is an actual quote.
The question was like how NBA could improve the defense.
Yeah.
And he suggested, his main suggestion was getting rid of
all the
Europeans.
Euros.
Yeah, because they play no defense, they're soft, they can only pass and shoot. And the way NBA changed actually, made the game easier for Europeans. And that was the part of the NBA's agenda, global game that he mentioned a few times. And yeah, basically that was the main idea. I could read, I will read the full quote, because maybe some of our listeners and viewers are not aware of it. Get rid of all Europeans. You go to college to learn defense. What college do Europeans go to? They have no athleticism. They have no speed, no jumping ability. They are a liability on defense. There are 150 Euros in the league today. Name the top defenders. None. Just Rudy Gobert and the Greek Freak. Other than that, there are offensive players. They took away aggression to open up the EuroLeague. When they first started getting there, it was too rough for them. They didn't make it. Eventually, they softened the rules. They didn't soften the rules for the Americans. They softened the rules to open up international. You remember pushing global game? How did they make it a global game if it's too physical and too athletic for them? So they have to figure out ways how they can exist inside of the game, create more opportunities, bring in more shooters so they can survive. That's pretty much it.
Can we see what do we agree with from all of what he said? Is there any, I would agree that individual defense of Europeans is probably worse, just because in Europe you can defend as a team better than as an individual. You don't need to rely so much on your ability to stay in front of your opponent. You can rely on the defensive system. I can agree with that, but that's not to say that what he said was right. But what do we agree with that? Do we agree with that? Probably.
But that's such a generalization.
Yeah. No,
but if we have an, let's say, average European player or average American player,
well, now
I think that's
what if again, are we talking on-ball defense?
Yeah, on-ball.
But that's just part of the defense.
I understand.
So I agree here.
In the NBA
but off-ball defense, I take a European.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Okay, and another thing, what
that's
else?
Out of question. Yeah, off-ball defense is clear. I go with Europeans as well.
Yeah, okay. Is there anything else we can agree?
Okay, speed,
before?
Jumping ability, Europeans are not as athletic as most of the Europeans, or average European player is not as athletic as the American player. But probably that's pretty much it.
Well, I feel like, okay, so do you guys agree that the main thing he forgot to mention was Stephen Curry, basically? That's the guy
No.
who changed the game?
I thought that guys like James Harden as well benefit a lot from these rule changes and, getting more calls.
He basically, what stood out to me the most is that the reason he mentions is bullshit. Like, the reason for those changes were that the NBA wanted to have more games to increase the scoring. They did not want games to finish 92-94. They want that games that finished over 100. And that's why they knew that more scoring means more highlights, more dunks, more drama equals more money. And look where the NBA is right now. Look at all those TV deals. Look at the salaries of average NBA player. That Tobias Harris is getting almost the same amount as one of the best NFL players. And the NBA removed the defensive 3 seconds in 2002. The NBA removed the hand checking in 2005, and the scoring immediately went by 4 points in the next season in 2005. So after that, happened that teams just basically find out the best ways to play basketball. Everybody became a shooter, so the spacing became better. And this is why we have more scoring than ever, because the teams are so smart, the players are so smart and skilled, and everybody's a shooter. So it's really hard to defend. And
analytics got involved as well. That was a huge game changer.
True,
going for threes instead of twos. And eliminating basically mid-range game.
Right. So to me, it's just, I don't know, it's a statement of, because he has to stay relevant in this. I don't know.
He actually doesn't need to stay relevant. His podcast is one of the most viewed podcasts in the NBA, actually.
Because he's saying things like this. He's shouting things like this that doesn't make sense at all. Like, to me, Arenas and Kendrick Perkins are on the top tier list of,
worst podcasters.
Worst, I don't know. Worst
talking
takes.
Heads.
Worst takes, because I don't want
loudest ones.
Yeah.
Another thing he said there, but I don't think you read that. He said that the Europeans have no handles, and then said only Luka has handles, and then tell me another European who right now plays in the NBA.
But why he was focusing on Europeans? Like, there are other international players.
I know. There are Americans who can't.
First of all, he said
dribble.
that there are 150 European players in the NBA. Actually,
there's 80, 64.
No, to start the season there was 125.
And
internationals.
And there were 64 European players. So we're talking about 14% of NBA players coming from Europe. So, I mean, does it even make sense that getting rid of 14% of European players will improve the defense? And also,
doesn't make sense
and
anyways.
they try, to change the game for 14% of Europeans?
He said, the way they said it, get rid of the Europeans and the defense will come back. How is it going to come back if the habits of the players and the way they've learned to play basketball now of the new generation is the way it is? It's not about the Europeans. It's about the how they play now. It's just stupid, right?
A lot of stupid things.
I don't know why are we commenting this, to be honest.
We need to react. I didn't see any response to Gilbert Arenas, actually. Maybe because the podcast was on weekend, and it's not the most popular time, and you might have some responses, but, there were a lot of bad takes. He mentioned college as a place to learn defense, and he mentioned what college do Europeans go to. It's a funny thing, but because I agree that in college you get, not the background, but a lot of information of how to play defense. Maybe they teach you right habits how to play defense, and especially off-ball defense. But at the same time, there's a funny fact that in his glorified era, when Gilbert Arenas played, 6 consecutive Defensive Player of the Year award winners were coming straight from the high school. Kevin Garnett, Dwight Howard, Tyson Chandler, and actually then Marc Gasol, European, won the Defensive Player of the Year award. And what college do Europeans go to? We're going to probably the most physical college that we have. EuroLeague, European basketball, even in those domestic leagues, they're facing grown men. They're facing 30-year-old guys who are dominating in the EuroLeague. They're really physical out there. They're not getting cheap calls. It's really hard to get for them to get any calls. So they're always out-hustled. They need to adapt to those demanding coaches with their defenses, offenses, a lot of attacks on the wall. So that's a better, you know, college than those most of those Americans do.
I feel like another thing to add here, we've seen Europeans who weren't really successful in the NBA, and this is about the whole notion of Europeans are soft. Right now, would you say the Europeans are tougher than the Americans, or the other way around? Because I would say Jokic, one of the toughest in terms of physical strength and of course skill is a lot of it, but he's freaking tough. All the big men from Europe are tough men. Luka, I mean, he's just the body of his.
I mean, look what happens when Team USA is playing all those European countries like Germany and Serbia. They usually out-rebounded, out-hustled. Their Europeans are more physical. You know, they cannot adapt to this physical game, not getting calls that they were used to get in the NBA. We're talking about EuroLeague and Europe in general being way more physical league, especially from the defensive standpoint.
And then what I was gonna say as well, the guys who didn't have a good career, that were stars in Europe and came to the NBA and just left after a season or so, they were all physically like not there for NBA standards. I did a video about this. I think how many NBA, how international the NBA is right now actually, and I looked at all the successful guards. They're all like 6'6", 6'7" or so like about 2 meters tall. They were all athletic, able to defend and all those things, and the ones who were only there for a season or less were all the undersized ones. So the Europeans that make it to the NBA, they are the tough ones as well. So I don't know where's this notion of softness still in his head in 2024.
Yeah.
So yeah. Guess that's it, right?
Yeah.
That's rant over about Jill's statement.
Okay, so pretty much it. Thank you guys for actually forgetting a food poisoning that I had yesterday for an hour and a half. It was really a pleasure to talk and to cover all those topics. And thanks for you watching us. If you like what we do, press like button, of course, and subscribe BasketNews YouTube channel, because we also have some prizes, right? Do we have any other prizes coming up from Gitis? Antetokounmpo jersey?
This one?
Okay.
Coming at 150,000 subs.
Yeah, so thanks for watching us and see you very soon.